Welcome to a Powerless Mage presence. This is the deep dive where we take really big ideas about living a fulfilled life and, well, we hand you the tools to make that knowledge actually work for you.
And today we're jumping into a topic that really it sits at the absolute center of the human experience.
It really does.
It's that search for meaning, for purpose, for a happiness that actually lasts. So many people get caught in this cycle, a little bit of relief, and then that old dissatisfaction just creeps back in.
And that's our mission today. We want to speak directly to that feeling, that sense of disconnection, the idea that something is just missing, even if your life looks perfect on paper or you're following all the rules you're supposed to.
Right. So we're diving into some material that acts almost like a spiritual diagnostic kit. Our goal is to give you the tools you need to figure out where you actually stand.
In relation to what, though? The divine, the sacred.
Exactly. The sublime. We want you to stop settling for that temporary comfort and start finding something genuine, real fulfillment.
The knowledge we're unpacking today is, it's a game changer for anyone feeling a bit lost. It all hinges on two concepts that we often use as if they're the same thing.
But they're not.
Not at all. And understanding the difference is the key. It's the key to unlocking your own path to greatness, to taking back control of your inner world.
But before we dive in, we have to set the stage. There's a core disclaimer in all of this source material that is just crucial.
Yes, let's make this crystal clear.
This is absolutely not a critique of religion. It's not a condemnation. It's not an attack on any belief system at all. We are not interested in the politics of it.
None of that. This is purely an analytical exercise. It's about your personal growth, your well-being.
Yeah.
We're just holding up a mirror to that universal human search for meaning.
And looking really objectively at the difference between the external structure and the internal experience.
That's the whole thing, isn't it?
It's vital. Because understanding that difference between spirituality and religion, that's the first huge step. It allows you to become an active participant in your own growth, not just a passive receiver of rules.
That's the leverage point.
That's it. Taking control, assessing where you are, and finally moving toward a satisfaction that actually sticks.
Okay, so let's get into it. Let's unpack this core distinction. To start, we need to find the common ground. When we're using these massive words, spirituality, religion, what are they both really aiming for?
The shared ground is connection. It's always about connection to something bigger than yourself.
Okay.
Both of them, at their heart, are about the practice of the sacred, the divine, the supernatural. They tapped into that deep human need to connect with what we could call the sublime.
So they're both systems designed to help us interact with a reality that's beyond just the material world, the day-to-day stuff we can see and touch.
Precisely.
Let's define that term, sublime. For someone listening who isn't a scholar, what does seeking the sublime actually feel like?
That's a great question. The sublime in this context is simply that feeling of profound awe. It's wonder. It's that deep realization that there's a cosmic order that is so much larger than your own individual worries.
I think I know that feeling. It's like when you look up at a clear night sky.
Yes, that's a perfect example. Or you see a huge mountain range or hear a piece of music that just brings you to tears. In that moment, you feel your place in the vastness of everything.
A sense of being a part of some immense interconnected whole.
That's the common ground. That's where the search for meaning always begins.
So they start from the same place with the same goal, but it sounds like the paths split almost immediately. Let's focus on the personal side first, spirituality.
Okay, so spirituality in its purest form is the direct connection that you as an individual have with that sublime reality.
The one-on-one connection.
Exactly. The source material uses this really wonderful metaphor for it. It calls it your unique individual thread.
A thread, I like that.
It's a thread that connects you directly with the higher powers. Think of it like a personal frequency or a spiritual fingerprint. No two are exactly alike.
That idea of individuality seems so important. It kind of explains why a practice that works wonders for your best friend might leave you feeling totally cold.
Precisely. And the key outcome of nurturing this thread is it's transformative. Spirituality is that internal force. It's what constantly pushes us to realize our full potential.
So it's the engine for personal growth.
It's the engine for becoming as great, as compassionate, as deeply fulfilled as you can possibly be. It's all about self-realization, but it happens through that connection. It's not about following orders from outside. It's about internal calibration.
And what does that calibration look like? What are you actually doing?
It requires looking in two directions at once. First, you have to look inside. You have to understand your purpose, your unique values, what makes you, separate from what society expects.
Okay, so self-knowledge.
Right. But then, at the same time, you have to look outside to locate yourself in reality, to understand your relationship with everything around you, your community, the planet, the cosmos.
So it's where the inner self meets the outer world.
Yes, that intersection is where true spirituality lives and breathes.
So if I'm getting this right, spirituality isn't just a switch. It's not like you either have it or you don't.
Not at all. It exists on a spectrum, a continuum of strength. You might meet someone with this incredibly strong, vibrant link to the sacred. They just seem naturally centered, compassionate.
I think we've all met people like that.
And on the other end, you might find someone who experiences a complete nullity, a total absence of that connection, which, as we said, often leads to that chronic dissatisfaction.
But the source says you can change that, right? Even if you feel nothing now.
Absolutely. That's the most critical part. Even if it's currently a nullity, that thread can be discovered. It can be cultivated over time. It's not a fixed state.
Okay, that feels really hopeful. And that brings us to the other side of the coin. Religion. If spirituality is that internal unique thread, what is religion in simple terms?
If spirituality is the individual thread, then religion is the social phenomenon. It's the system, the formalized structure, the organized architecture that gets built around those original unique threads.
But where did that structure come from? It doesn't just pop up out of nowhere.
No, it starts with a person, an individual who has acquired genuine, profound spiritual knowledge, someone who has really cultivated that deep personal thread, and they decide to share what they've found.
They want to help others find it too.
Exactly. They want to guide others toward that same connection. But to do that, they have to translate their own abstract personal experience into something concrete, something communicable.
They need a way to teach it, a method.
A teaching method, yes.
Yeah.
They teach what they've learned using tools that other people can understand and pass down through generations. Things like stories, parables, ethical customs, formalized beliefs, and specific worship practices like prayer or rituals.
And when all of that gets organized,
When those teachings get a consistent, recognizable, formal structure, a community, buildings, a set of rules, some form of governance, that's when they become a religion.
so in its purest form, religion is meant to be the ultimate support system. It's like the classroom, the curriculum, and the support group, all designed by people who've walked the path to help others find their own way.
That is the intended purpose. The ultimate goal of religion should be to cultivate spirituality in each individual. It's meant to be the vehicle, the roadmap, the guide.
Bug there. And I'm sensing a but here.
The key insight from our source material is that when you look at why so many people are dissatisfied, it's because the vehicle often becomes the destination. And that's where the trouble starts.
That distinction, vehicle versus destination, that feels huge for anyone looking for real fulfillment. It means you can start to evaluate your own practices based on what they're actually doing.
Exactly. You can ask, is this ritual helping me deepen my personal connection? Or am I just doing it to satisfy a social requirement?
And just understanding that difference puts the power right back in your hand.
It does. You're now equipped to evaluate the effectiveness of the vehicle, the religion, based on whether it's actually doing its job, which is to help you cultivate your unique individual thread of spirituality.
So this isn't necessarily about leaving your religion. It could be about demanding more from it, or maybe realizing your path is somewhere else.
It's about being a conscious participant instead of a passive follower.
So for everyone listening, this brings us to our first big moment of reflection. Based on these simple but really profound definitions, the difference between that internal individual thread and the external social structure, we want you to just take a moment. Ask yourself, where do you feel your personal connection lies? Is it primarily in that individual thread of spirituality, or is it mainly within the social structure of religion?
As we move into our second section, we're shifting from just defining these things to talking about the mechanics of it. How do you actually achieve this? And we need to be persuasive here because the source material is very clear. Spirituality is an active, discoverable pursuit.
It's not a passive state you just wait around for.
No, it requires work.
And it is the path to your own personal greatness. But we have to say it again. This road is absolutely unique to you. No two spiritual journeys, the struggles, the breakthroughs, the way you connect, they're never exactly alike.
Which is why looking for some kind of mass market, one-size-fits-all solution is, well, it's just destined to fail.
That's a really liberating idea, actually. It means that if some popular method isn't working for you, you aren't broken.
You're not broken at all. You just haven't found your unique rhythm yet. Your spiritual thread needs a tailor-made approach.
And this leads us to what the source calls a surprising, non-intuitive truth. which is that finding your spirituality is not intuitive.
That's a pivotal point. We really need to spend some time on this. Why is it non-intuitive?
Yeah, that seems backwards. Shouldn't it be the most natural thing in the world?
You'd think so. But as human beings, especially in modern society, we are just wired for tangible things, for structure, for instant feedback. We reward effort we can measure.
Right. We want to see the results on a spreadsheet.
Exactly. And spiritual cultivation is the polar opposite of that. It's intangible, it's slow, it requires solitude, stillness, patience, all things that our noisy, stimulating world actively discourages.
That makes so much sense. Our default setting is to follow a map, to join a group, to check off a to-do list. We look for validation from the outside.
But the spiritual path is an internal exploration, and there's no visible map. It forces us into discomfort.
So that internal friction is why we need tools. If it doesn't just happen on its own, we need a specific way to cultivate it.
And this is where the source material gets very practical. It's not just theory.
It actually names 2 primary methods that are accessible to literally everyone right now.
Yeah.
And they're not esoteric. It's meditation and reflection exercises.
And we absolutely have to demystify those terms. When we say meditation, we are not necessarily talking about achieving some cosmic state or levitating.
Right. You don't need a mantra or a guru to start.
Not at all. It's something much simpler and more foundational.
So let's break it down for the person who's thinking, I'm too busy, my mind is too stressed for that.
For that person, meditation simply means taking dedicated time, even if it's just 5 minutes, to quiet your mind and practice being present.
So it's about creating silence?
It's about creating a little bit of silence from the daily noise, the demands of work, the endless pings from your phone, the constant internal chatter of planning and worrying. It's an exercise in just observing your thoughts without getting swept away by them.
Why is that silence so critical for finding that spiritual thread you were talking about?
Because the thread is subtle. It's like trying to hear a very quiet whisper in the middle of a loud rock concert.
Good analogy.
The constant noise of our ego and daily life just drowns it out. Meditation creates the space, the quiet room, where your subtle inner voice, or the voice of the divine, however you see it, can actually be heard or felt.
So it's about learning to receive instead of always transmitting.
That's a perfect way to put it. And it takes deliberate, non-intuitive effort to just slow down.
And reflection is the other half of that, right? It's the application of that stillness.
Exactly. If meditation is creating the quiet space, reflection is the conscious work you do in that space. It's the mental workout.
What did that mean, though? Just thinking?
It's a structured kind of thinking. It means deeply considering your life, your purpose, your choices. It's about asking those really big, often uncomfortable questions.
Like where?
Like, why am I reacting this way to things? What is the purpose of this suffering I'm going through? Am I living my life according to my deepest values, or am I just running on autopilot, just following habits?
So meditation is the act of listening, and reflection is the act of processing what you've heard and figuring out how it applies to your actual life.
Precisely. Reflection is what allows you to locate yourself in reality. It forces you to do an honest audit of your behavior versus your values. And this work is hard. It's really hard.
Because it often shows you things you don't want to see.
It reveals the painful truths about where we're falling short. And that is exactly why the path is non-intuitive. It requires us to look at our flaws, not just our accomplishments.
The source does acknowledge that this whole journey can feel really unclear at first. It's messy, it's not a straight line, and you might doubt if you're even doing it right.
But here's the major point of encouragement in all of this. The seeking is the cultivation.
Say more about that.
The moment you dedicate time to these practices, even if you feel lost or frustrated or you're not seeing results, you are strengthening that unique thread. You are actively choosing to move toward your personal greatness.
Just by valuing introspection over compliance.
Yes, and that realization helps explain why guidance became so important in the first place. People who have successfully navigated this messy, non-intuitive path can offer invaluable support to others.
And that brings us back to the beneficial role of religion in its ideal form.
Exactly. The guidance methods, the stories, the ethical ideas, the specific techniques, they all started as helpful signposts. They're meant to light the way and offer proven methods for strengthening that spiritual thread.
The problem isn't that the guidance exists.
The problem is when the community starts prioritizing memorizing the signposts instead of actually following the directions it's pointing to.
This individual path, it feels like the highest act of self-love. Because it's demanding that you focus on your authentic truth no matter what anyone else thinks.
And if you're listening right now and feeling that dissatisfaction, that's a powerful sign. It's a sign that your thread is starved and that it requires your focused commitment. Don't wait for a sign from the heavens. Just start cultivating the silence.
So we want to encourage you to reflect on this really profound challenge. If cultivating your individual spirituality requires this active, non-intuitive work, meditation, and reflection, what is one small moment of reflection or meditation you could commit to this week to start exploring that non-intuitive path?
Okay, so we've established that spirituality is the unique thread, and religion is the social structure designed to help us find it. Now we have to turn a critical eye to the structure itself.
This is where we introduce the reality check from our source material.
Right. Religion is, by its very nature, social. It provides community, a shared sense of meaning, ethical systems, massive support networks.
All things that are vital for a healthy society.
Absolutely. But that social nature is also its greatest vulnerability.
That's the core of it, isn't it?
It's the crux of the problem. Religion should be the engine that helps individuals achieve greater spirituality. But we have to talk about the human element. The source material identifies this as the point of potential systemic failure.
I think this is where so many people who get disillusioned find their breaking point. They realize this divine message is being administered by, well, by imperfect people.
And imperfection is just inevitable. Religion is formed, it's governed, it's administered entirely by human beings. And human beings, as we all know from our own painful experience, are fallible.
We're driven by ego.
We can be selfish, ambitious. We carry all of our own psychological baggage into even the most sacred work.
And the source puts this gently. It says this isn't about condemnation. Everyone is fighting their own internal battles.
True. But when those internal human battles, like the desire for power or wealth or social status, start to interfere with the sacred mission of the religious structure.
Which is to foster connection.
Right. When that happens, the structure begins to fail the very people it was created to serve.
It creates a crisis of misaligned priorities.
It does. And we have to look honestly at the fact that not all religious men or women in positions of authority actually prioritize our spiritual growth and community well-being above, say, institutional needs.
When the structure gets corrupted by human ambition, the focus shifts.
It shifts violently. It moves away from the sublime, that vast cosmic connection, and toward the temporal, toward power, property, control over people.
Let me ask a challenging question here. If the structure is inherently social and society is inherently messy, isn't this kind of corruption almost inevitable? Can a religion ever really stay pure once it gets big and formalized?
That is the essential, difficult question that this material raises. And the source suggests that maintaining that purity requires immense, constant vigilance.
And what else?
An ironclad commitment to the original spiritual mission above all other considerations, especially financial and political ones. The second that temporal power becomes the primary goal, the spiritual effectiveness just plummets.
And this leads us to the great irony that the source points out. This is so vital for anyone seeking fulfillment to understand. This is where the vehicle can actively sabotage the entire journey.
The irony is this. Religion sometimes becomes more social than spiritual.
Say that again. That's a huge statement.
The structure, which was built only to foster the inner life and that unique spiritual thread, can become so focused on its own survival, its own maintenance, its own growth as an organization,
that it actually gets in the way of the inner life of its members.
it impedes it. That inversion is so powerful.
How does that actually show up for the everyday person? What does that look like?
The emphasis shifts dramatically. It moves from internal transformation to external compliance.
From changing on the inside to just behaving on the outside.
Exactly. Instead of encouraging deep personal meditation, honest reflection, or cultivating a unique connection with reality, the focus shifts to just following the structure. That means adhering strictly to the rules, performing the customs correctly, adopting the specific ideas of the group, and showing up.
It becomes a performance.
Yeah.
And the way you measure success changes. It shifts from, am I becoming a more centered, compassionate, selfless person, to the much easier question.
Did I follow the prescribed ritual correctly? Am I doing what everyone else is doing?
And the human element, our egos, we love that. We love compliance. It feeds our need for belonging, for security, for order.
Of course. Spiritual work, as we said, is often lonely and messy and chaotic. So the structure, driven by the comfort of its fallible leaders and members, starts to prioritize conformity over the difficult, non-intuitive work of spiritual growth.
The individual thread gets lost.
It gets forgotten in favor of the group tapestry.
So the big takeaway here, the persuasive point for anyone listening, is pretty simple then. You have to evaluate the source of your spiritual guidance.
Whether it's a specific institution or a self-help guru or a book.
You have to ask, is this guidance leading me deeper into self-awareness, compassion, and my own unique connection? Or is it just leading me deeper into the expectations of the group, demanding obedience and maybe my money?
That's the test. If the structure of your religion is successfully helping you with your individual spiritual connection, if it's making that deep, reflective work easier and supporting your inner life, then it is serving its ultimate purpose brilliantly.
But if it's constantly placing burdens on you, rules, social pressure, demands for compliance, and putting those things above genuine internal transformation,
Then the vehicle has become a cage.
and that cage, no matter how comfortable it feels, will always lead back to that original dissatisfaction. Because the real spiritual hunger hasn't been fed.
We have to be honest about it. The structure is meant to be a servant to the spirit, and when the servant becomes the master, the individual always suffers.
So this brings us to the heavy reflection question for this crucial section. When you engage in your practices, are you focused on finding genuine spiritual depth, or are you primarily focused on following rules and customs just to fit into the social structure?
So if we accept this reality that the human element can lead to this profound inversion where the structure becomes more social than spiritual, then we have to confront the final and maybe the most subtle and dangerous pitfall of all.
And that is the spiritual placebo effect.
Exactly. This is the mechanism that keeps people stuck in their dissatisfaction while, on the surface, feeling like they're doing everything right.
This is such a critical point. It explains how people can be so devoted, so involved, and yet still have that deep central emptiness they can't quite name.
They think they're fulfilling their spiritual needs, but they're only meeting the needs of compliance and community.
The source has a name for this, doesn't it?
It does. It calls it the placebo of pleasure. And that is a profoundly precise diagnosis for spiritual stagnation. Essentially, some religious practices, whether they mean to or not, start to feed a person's pride.
And that feeling of social belonging.
Yes. And that feeling starts to take the place of actual spiritual growth.
So the feeling of satisfaction is real. You do feel good. But the source of that feeling is external, not internal. It's a substitute.
It's a subtle replacement of genuine substance with a more superficial satisfaction.
How does that replacement work exactly? It sounds tricky.
Well, the deep, profound satisfaction that comes from genuine spiritual contact, that feeling of being connected to the sublime, of humbling your ego, that feeling is replaced by the joy of having complied with a series of rules.
You feel good because you followed the program.
You checked the boxes. You received affirmation from the group that you are one of the good ones. It's an ego boost.
An ego boost that's masquerading as soul fulfillment. You get a pat on the back for being obedient, rather than experiencing the difficult, grounding transformation that comes from actually finding your place in the infinite.
And compliance is so easy to measure. It gives you immediate, tangible feedback. Spiritual contact is slow, it's nonlinear, it's intangible. The ego will always prefer the measurable success of adherence.
So the comfort of following the rules becomes this powerful placebo.
And it masks the underlying spiritual hunger. The dissatisfaction never really goes away because the medicine you're taking is just a sugar pill of social acceptance.
The moment someone starts confusing the comfort of following the rules with the transformation of real connection, they just stop growing. They get satisfied with the feeling of being right instead of the ongoing challenge of doing right.
This phenomenon, while it's subtle, is powerful enough to inspire major life changes. And we have to be nuanced here. This doesn't apply to all practices or all religions.
Of course not.
But where these bad practices exist, they create an environment where people feel increasingly hollow.
And that feeling of being hollow, that disillusionment, that's a massive engine for change.
It is. Dealing with the selfish human element, or finally recognizing the spiritual placebo for what it is, that's often what inspires people to abandon traditional structures entirely.
And to seek their own spirituality through more personalized, less orthodox methods. They're leaving the vehicle because they realized it was never actually driving them anywhere.
They're seeking the substance that the structure promised but failed to deliver. They realize that temporary comfort just isn't worth the price of genuine transformation.
This leads us to a really fascinating and provocative observation from the source. On the surface, it sounds like a complete paradox.
The atheist paradox?
Yes. Tell us about that.
It's a thought experiment, and it's designed to prove the power of forced introspection. The source suggests that, ironically, individuals who identify as atheists might have greater, more authentic spiritual contact than many practitioners who are nominally religious.
Okay, that sounds impossible. How can someone who explicitly rejects the divine have greater spiritual contact than someone who dedicates their life to it?
The reasoning is purely mechanical. It's not about belief, it's about structure. The atheist, by abandoning or simply not following any established structure of sacred teaching, is immediately and violently forced onto the non-intuitive path.
They can't rely on rules or customs or social belonging for their psychological well-being.
They lose the placebo effect entirely.
Yeah.
They have no external scaffolding to rely on. So if they are seeking meaning, purpose, and guidance, which are all fundamentally spiritual pursuits, they have to find other ways to locate themselves in reality. They're forced to do the hard, personal, non-intuitive work of deep reflection and honest introspection without a shared map.
They are forced to cultivate their own individual thread, because the structure of compliance simply isn't an option for them.
And that searching, that active cultivation, that struggle to define meaning on their own authentic terms, that may lead to a deeper, more sincere, and more fulfilling spiritual contact than the passive adherence to rules that some religious practitioners mistake for transformation.
So it shows the immense power of necessity in spiritual growth. When you have no other choice, you have to do the work yourself.
Now, the source is very careful here. It notes this is just a compelling perception. It would require hard data to actually verify.
It's not an endorsement of any belief system.
Not at all. It's an observation about how structure, or the lack of it, can force genuine growth.
Which brings us to the ultimate synthesis. This entire deep dive has been about giving you, the listener, a way to determine the sincerity and the effectiveness of your own journey.
And we now arrive at the ultimate purpose of this material, the question that only you can answer for yourself.
And this requires brutal, painful honesty. You have to look past the comfort of the group, past the pleasure of just complying, and you have to examine the true depth of your fulfillment.
So the ultimate question, distilled from all of our source material, is this. Are you currently on the path to finding your own unique spirituality? Or have your religious practices unintentionally prevented you from growing in the spiritual realm?
This is the moment to look at your own personal greatness and ask if you're truly moving toward it or if you're just walking in place.
So one last reflection point for this entire discussion, something to just sit with for a while. Thinking about your deepest source of satisfaction, are you deriving genuine joy from your unique connection to the sublime? Or is that joy stemming mainly from the comfort of fitting into a belief system?
The power of knowing this distinction between spirituality and religion, between the unique thread and the social vehicle, it's profound. It gives you the diagnostic tools you need to fix the engine of your inner life and start moving toward a satisfaction that actually lasts.
True fulfillment, lasting peace, that sense of connection that we all crave, it comes from cultivating that individual unique thread of spirituality.
It requires active work.
It requires meditation and reflection. And it requires that work, regardless of what social structure or religion you choose to be a part of, or whether you choose one at all.
So embrace the non-intuitive nature of the path. The challenging work is what leads to greatness. Don't let the comfort of compliance be mistaken for the joy of transformation.
Your journey is yours alone, and recognizing the freedom in that is the first step toward genuine power. This path isn't esoteric or inaccessible. It's accessible to you right now.
It starts with a quiet moment.
A simple commitment to asking the difficult, honest questions about your life and your purpose. Choose the messy path of self-discovery over the comfortable path of just following along. Embrace your unique spiritual journey toward your personal greatness.
Don't simply take our word, put everything you heard here to the test. Make this knowledge truly yours.
Remember, the power is yours.